Okay. Ooh, let's do this. So, my name's Alex. I'm obviously an English teacher based here in the UK. So, I live in, like you said, I'm in the south of the UK. So, my accent, I always think is just very boring, bog standard. It's just average kind of British accent. I much prefer the northern accents, if I'm honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just so much more fun, isn't it? The kind of different accents up north.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to English with Lewis. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. And yeah, today we're going to have another nice, natural conversation between two Brits, a northerner and a southerner. And yeah, I'm raring to get going and I'm buzzing to get started. So, Alex, hello, welcome.
Hello. Yeah, it's good to be here today. How are you doing, Lewis?
I'm all right. A little bit tired. I'm always complaining about being tired. Maybe I should just get a grip. But apart from that, I'm all good. How about you?
Yeah, very good. It's been a nice day. The weather is, although, yeah, I'm in the south of the UK, the weather has been extremely cold the last week or so. We've had a little bit of snow, which has been nice. But yeah, not too bad. You said get a grip before. That's
Lovely.
an interesting phrase. I like that one.
Yeah. So if, for example, somebody is complaining about something, usually something insignificant. So if they're like, oh, I've got 2 meetings today. Oh no, I have to go to the supermarket. Oh, then someone else can be like, come on, mate, get a grip. Like, sort yourself out. It's not that bad. Come on, get a grip.
Yeah, I love that one. That's a nice one.
Awesome. So anyway, to kick off and get the ball rolling, Alex, introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? Etc.
Okay. Ooh, let's do this. So, my name's Alex. I'm obviously an English teacher based here in the UK. So, I live in, like you said, I'm in the south of the UK. So, my accent, I always think is just very boring, bog standard. It's just average kind of British accent. I much prefer the northern accents, if I'm honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just so much more fun, isn't it? The kind of different accents up north. But yeah, so yeah, I'm an English teacher. I live down the south. My county is Hampshire. It's a beautiful part of the world. Very near the coast. So enjoy, lots of like water sports, like boating, sailing, those type of things. Yeah, and I've been teaching English for feels like forever now in one way or another, basically. So it's been good. Yeah, it's nice. That's me.
Awesome. Well, I'll ask you some more questions and then we can go into different topics and stuff like that. But let's start with Hampshire.
Okay.
So I'm from Yorkshire. I'm from the north. You can see the map behind me. Kind of where I'm pointing at is
Okay.
more or less where Yorkshire is. You
Mhm.
can't even see Hampshire because it's right. So,
Oh, not
and
quite.
I've never been. I know you've got, is it Southampton and Portsmouth
Yeah.
in the
So
same county?
rivalry between those two cities, big rivalry between Portsmouth and Southampton, based around the football teams. Obviously, in the UK, as you know, football is it's probably the biggest sport, and the rivalries between the teams are, yeah, very intense. So Southampton is not my team. Portsmouth would be my team because that's my closest city. And there's a big rivalry between the two. Yeah. But yeah, difference between the north and south in the UK is very interesting, I think.
No, 100%. And even within the south and within the north, there are different accents at the same time. Like you cannot compare someone from Liverpool with someone from Leeds and someone from Leeds with someone from Newcastle. And equally in the south, you have like a Bristolian accent, which is very different to your accent, for example, or a Cockney accent as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be honest with you. I've traveled a lot around the world and lived in different countries, but I've never really traveled anywhere in the north of the UK. I think probably a lot of Southerners would be in the same boat. I mean, they would be in the same situation because I've only really ever stayed around the south. The furthest north I've ever been is Oxford,
Oh my
which,
God.
and then Scotland, which obviously is different.
Okay, that's very far north.
Yeah. that in between period, in between area, I've not really. I think I've driven through and I've stopped in Birmingham on the way up to Edinburgh. But where in the north would you recommend to visit?
I mean, I went to uni in Liverpool, and I think Liverpool is a really cool city. Like, it's not that big, but it's big enough to be like a city with things going on all of the time. You've got the classic music scene, thanks to like the Beatles and other artists. Then lots of football as well with Liverpool and Everton. You've got like the coast and the docks, and there you have lots of old buildings. So it feels a little bit like in certain areas of Liverpool, it's like you're going back in time to like the Victorian era. But then at the same time, you also have some kind of dodgy, rough areas in Liverpool. So it's a city of contrasts. Apart from that, Leeds is okay, but it's nothing special. However, York is beautiful. And York is just to the north of Leeds. And it still retains this really old-fashioned, kind of quaint, beautiful town where you've got the river running through it. You have the Minster, which is a type of cathedral. So York is a really, really good recommendation. Other than that, I mean, you mentioned Scotland, but Edinburgh for me is one of the most beautiful cities in the world.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so you described those like places like York. It makes me think of quintessentially British. That's one of my favorite phrases to describe something. Like if you go for an afternoon tea where you have like scones, little sandwiches, or you go and see Buckingham Palace in London, it's very quintessentially British. I don't know where that word comes from, but I think it's a great way to describe something's very traditional. I love that.
Yeah, no idea. It sounds great though. Quintessentially British is like 100% stereotypically British.
Mm-hmm. It rolls off the tongue nicely, doesn't it? Quintessentially.
Just flows.
Mm.
Now, focusing on some of your short videos on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that, I often see some nice, beautiful English countrysides. You can see the cliffs in Hampshire, and you often post stories or videos of like a pub in the background.
Yeah.
Could you describe Hampshire, like what it's like? Is it very like rural, or are there also some cities apart from like Portsmouth and Southampton?
Yeah. Okay, very good question. So Hampshire, I would describe as it's a real mix between you've got big naval city, so Portsmouth, which is big naval city, so lots of boats there. The British Navy has got big bases in Portsmouth. You've got something called a place called the Spinnaker Tower, which is obviously a big monument, beautiful tower. So you've got lots of busy cities, but then also you have, huge areas of very beautiful countryside. So you've got a part of the South Downs, which is a national park. You then go into the New Forest, again, which is another national park. So lots of beautiful areas, rolling hills. Like you said, pub culture is a big thing in the UK. It's one of my favorite parts of British culture is being down the pub with your mates, having a pint of beer, trying new ciders or whatever it is, and enjoying those times, playing cards by the fire. My favorite English word is cozy, and it probably comes from some European word, but cozy to describe being in a pub, fire on, in a cozy, snug, absolutely
warm, it's comfortable, it's friendly.
Exactly. But yeah, so Hampshire's a really beautiful county. Lots of cricket is played here. There's some beautiful cricket grounds, obviously a very traditionally English sport. Lovely walks. And yeah, because we're along the coast, there's lots of water sports as well, lots of sailing. You can go surfing here. You've got the Isle of Wight, which is just off the coast as well, which is a beautiful island that sometimes you can visit. It's quite isolated in ways in regards to its culture, but beautiful nonetheless. And yeah, it's nice. Yeah,
sounds great. And just with that, obviously you mentioned cricket, you mentioned water sports. I'm a big football fan, so we touched on the derby and the rivalry between Portsmouth, Pompey, and Southampton, the Saints.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you play cricket?
So when I was younger, And at school, we played cricket quite often. But when you kind of leave school and then you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, it's not that common to play cricket with your mates. Generally, it's more of a small village. It's in my area anyway, small village, traditional thing to do maybe once or twice a year, unless you're in a cricket club because of your family or something.
Yeah.
So I'm much more likely to play paddle, which is a new sport I've been trying recently. Or
It's taking over the world at the moment. Really.
Have you played paddle?
I've played 3 times in my life, and each time I've really enjoyed it, despite being terrible, because I was always awful at tennis. I'm all right at ping pong, but I mean, it's pretty easy in general. Yeah. And from living in Spain in the past, like paddle has been a big thing over there for over a decade now. So I always spoke to so many students about paddle. They always encouraged me to play. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to. And then never did anything about it. Okay. And then one of my friends last summer, was like, oh, Lewis, have you heard of this new sport called paddle tennis? And I was like, you mean paddle, right? Oh yeah, of course, loads of students play it. Are you playing now? And then it was like, yeah, I've been playing for like a month. So then I played a couple of times in summer with them, and then also over Christmas. And it's really fun, but again, I need to practice and get the hang of it more, because last time I played, I was like falling over all the time and making a fool out of myself. But hopefully this year, I will play a lot more paddle.
Yeah, that's a good goal to set. You just used that phrase, get a hang of. I love that one.
Exactly. So I mentioned earlier, get a grip, which is what you tell someone when they're complaining about something insignificant. If you get the hang of doing something, you kind of get used to it and you figure out how to play. So you adapt yourself to doing this thing. So it's hard for me to get the hang of playing paddle because it's a little bit tricky, but I'm on the right track. Or at least I hope I'm on the right track.
I love that. Nice. That's fantastic.
So many expressions. Obviously, we've mentioned the United Kingdom, where you're from and stuff like that. Now, you did mention in passing that you've lived in lots of different places around the world, or at least you've traveled there. Where have you traveled or lived in the past?
So this is a topic of contention, right? So it's up for debate. How long do you have to live somewhere to say I've lived in that country? What's your opinion on that?
I'd say around... My first thing that came to mind is 6 months, but I could accept 3 months.
Okay. Fine then. Okay, so
I've lived nowhere.
Okay, so fine. So ever since I was 18, every winter I've tried to make an effort to not spend the winter in the UK, if at all possible, because as you know, it's so cold here, and I need to be in the sun to do well. You know, I need that tan. I need to be enjoying the good weather. So I've always tried to be in a different country over that period. And then in 2019, that's when I moved to India for, it was supposed to be for a year, but I moved just before COVID. So I was there for about 4 months, and then I had to come back home again. And then I went back out to India for another 6 months at the beginning of last year. So I would say India, I feel like kind of lived in.
That counts.
Yeah. And then I spent last summer in Norway for kind of 3 months as well. So a real contrast between India and then Norway a few months later.
Okay.
But
this is good because
the main countries I've lived this year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there are more, but like I have never been to India nor Norway. And with India, what was it that made you want to go there in the first place? All of this pre-pandemic.
Yeah. Well, so every time I've gone away somewhere, I've tried to volunteer in a school when I've visited a place. Mm-hmm. So there was a school that I was kind of in having communication with in India on the West Coast. So I just went there, volunteered there, teaching English to some of the students there. generally in the area I went to, everyone speaks English really well. But if you're kind of maybe in a more deprived area, so in a more poorer area, your English level isn't going to be as good. So we were working in a more, underdeveloped area and kind of helping them with their English, which was a really nice experience as well to enjoy their culture. And then in the interim, like at the same time, I was able to learn quite a lot of Hindi as well, which has been really fun and useful since I've been back in the UK, because you have lots of people from Pakistan or India or other areas of Southern Asia. And some of the languages cross over. So it's fun to surprise someone when you can speak a little bit of their language. I always enjoy that. That's fun.
No, 100%. And when you were in India, I imagine you were excited to try the typical food and the Indian curries because we have a big curry culture in the United Kingdom. So what similarities and differences did you notice between Indian English food and Indian food?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the whole time I was in India, obviously India is a massive place. So I was in the first month I was in Rajasthan, which is kind of in the west north-ish area, and then I was on the west coast between Mumbai and Goa in that area. So maybe obviously the cuisine, the food is going to be different in different areas, but I was there for this whole time, and I never tried a single onion bhaji the whole time I was there. So in the UK,
chicken tikka masala either, I guess. Okay, maybe butter chicken
of it, but it was very different to what I was used to when you get a takeaway from your local curry house here in Portsmouth, for example. But yeah, so I didn't get one single onion. I didn't get
one onion bhaji.
Exactly, which really surprised me. So definitely the British take on maybe some Indian food has changed it a fair amount, I would say. Yeah, the food was good. I would say the food was good.
Yeah, and obviously in India they have a huge culture of playing cricket as well.
Sure.
Business of the IPL. But another reason why many people will go to India to spend like a month, 2 months, 3 months is due to like spirituality and yoga.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was something that you were aware of when you went there or something that you tried whilst you were in India.
Yeah, there was definitely in some of the areas that I visited as just part of the trip as well, there was definitely that, that vibe of meditation, yoga, spirituality, connecting with your inner self, I didn't really get too involved in that type of thing, but definitely met a lot of really interesting people who had moved there for that reason. But yeah, the culture where you go anywhere, it's so fun to learn about different ways people do things. I find that really enjoyable.
Amazing. Like, I'd love to go to India, but I think I would rather go to Norway. No offense, any Indians who are watching this. But I mean, it's a long way, an expensive flight. So Norway is kind of close. Yeah. And all of the nature seems absolutely incredible. So why did you then move to Norway? What was the main kind of attraction in this case?
So when I went to India the first time in 2020, I met quite a few friends from Norway and just stayed in contact with them, and then just did some trips back and forth. And I remember I was with some friends on a cabin trip out in the sticks, so like out in the far away from the city, right? So right in the middle of the country, a real rural area, out in the sticks. And we were having this cabin trip, and I said to my friend, I'd love to live here. And then they said, well, why don't you move here for the summer? Norwegian summer is a great thing to do. And I thought, yeah, you're only young once. Why not? If I've got the circumstance, why don't I try to do that?
Yeah,
you did. And then I was able to I didn't do any teaching or anything over there. This was purely a selfish recreational trip, right? So just visited lots of different places, did some road trips, stayed in Oslo for a little bit of time. Beautiful, really nice. And I learned a lot of Norwegian as well. That's a really fun language to learn. That's a really fun language. And I enjoyed practicing speaking Norwegian as well. I really enjoyed it.
fun in what way? Just because it sounds funny when you're making the sounds of the language, or what?
Well, when it's funny because I feel like when you speak English, as you know, like the melody of different languages they're different depending on like where you're from. So I've had this with some of my students before. Maybe if they're from Eastern Europe, the way that they'll do a sentence will be very different to how you would group the words when you speak in English. So that's a thing to learn when you're trying to sound more natural.
Yeah.
And when I was trying to learn and speak Norwegian, they describe the language as almost as if you're singing. So if you were to say something in Norwegian, it's very like huda, 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 hara, huda, huda, like that, like very up and down, like how you talk. So it was lots of fun to try my best to learn the accent and have some fun with it. And as you know, the best way to improve your speaking skills is to practice as much as you can. And for me, I've never been afraid to make mistakes. I don't find it embarrassing to be bad at a language at the beginning. So by meeting people, having conversations, trying to speak to them in their language, the fun that you can have with that I love that so much.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is also a little lesson for everybody as well. If you're able to kind of impersonate, imitate, and copy how other people speak, then it's really going to make a big difference on how you speak English. Because you need to look at some models, role models even, and think like, oh, I like the way that guy sounds. Or, oh, I love that woman's accent. And then try to kind of zone in on how they're speaking, the melodies, as you said, the intonation, the stress, and see if you can copy that person to the best of your ability, and it'll start to come more naturally. So then you'll just basically become a little mini version of this other person. So yeah, if you can take in as much as possible of how other people speak the language you're trying to learn, and then copy them as much as possible, you'll notice an improvement for sure. So that's a little studying tip. Pronunciation tip for today.
An excellent golden nugget there. Good point.
Little nugget, a little gem. Cool. Now, speaking about English and teaching English, how is it that you got into being an English teacher? Where does it all start?
Okay, so when I was a teenager at school, in secondary school, I went to an international school where we had, because I'm living in the city, you've got people from all over the world who kind of migrate maybe to Portsmouth sometimes. So you had people from all over the world, lots of different languages. So I was asked to help tutor other students and help them with their English. I was not qualified. I was like 13, 14 years old, but I just enjoy talking to people. Like I just love chatting. So then I was helping the other students adapt to this new language, trying to encourage them, teaching them things. And it just felt so natural for me. I really enjoyed that aspect of working with people, helping them, seeing someone grow in their confidence with a language and how that can benefit them when they're in an English-speaking country is so nice. So being able to help someone with that. So then after I left school, I actually, it's funny, we were talking about this before, but I actually wanted to be a doctor for a long time. So I thought, okay, I'll put the teaching thing. That was a fun thing while I studied at school. I've always expected myself to be a doctor. So I started that training. And then I really missed the teaching element and helping people. So I thought, okay, I'm going to stop this. And that's when I changed my my course
degree, right?
Yeah, I actually did psychology, but then with like a teaching section attached to it. And then that's when I moved to India and then worked in a teaching school. Then I got myself like properly qualified with everything, and then started working with a company, and then thought, well, I can help more people if I do this kind of in my own way rather than being restricted by a company with their own, how it works sometimes. And I've been kind of teaching full time for the last 5 or 6 years, like properly, whereas before I was just tutoring or helping a little bit.
Excellent.
Love it.
So in another world, you would have been Dr. Alex.
Yeah, maybe. I would have felt bad for any patients that would have met me, but that could have happened. Yeah, but it didn't.
Like with medicine, I think it's an amazing career, of course. I wish I could be a doctor, but it's definitely not my cup of tea. It's not made for me because if I see anyone bleeding or if I see, I don't know, organs or anything like that on TV, then
Mhm.
I've got to like cover my eyes and look away.
You're a
Uh,
bit squeamish.
I'm a bit squeamish, exactly. Nice word.
Yeah.
Someone squeamish is someone who, when they see blood, organs, anything like this disgusting, then they almost want to be sick or
Yeah.
they just can't look and they're like screaming at the same time, like, turn it off.
Yeah, I'm not squeamish. I love that type of thing, but I know a lot of people are.
Well, was this one of the reasons why you wanted to be a doctor in the first place?
Yeah.
To see as much blood as possible.
I think I've probably watched TV shows like Scrubs or Grey's Anatomy or those type of things, and it gave me a perhaps unrealistic expectation of what working in a hospital would be like. I wanted to help people, but I feel like helping them in this way with their language and with English, suited me and my personality better, I think.
Exciting. Cool. Now, at the moment and in recent years, I've been teaching a lot of like human resources employees or human resources directors. And it's funny that a lot of the people who work in human resources in HR come from psychology, that they studied psychology at university. Then it can be quite complicated to get a job as an actual psychologist.
Mm.
A similar thing happens with law. Many people study law, but then don't end up working as a lawyer. But it gives you lots of like transferable skills. So then from doing psychology, you can work in HR or as a teacher. From doing law, you can work as an accountant or maybe an auditor, for example. In your case with psychology, what did you like about the degree? And did you consider following that path to become a psychologist?
Yeah, great question. I feel like I was very much interested in the counseling side of things rather than like clinical psychology because I love talking to people. I like trying to make someone feel comfortable and able to open up, express themselves to open up. Um, so I feel like it's often been said to me by some of my students that during our classes, sometimes it feels like, oh, you're my therapist as well as my yeah. Because when you want to encourage somebody to practice talking, practice speaking, what do you talk about? The student talks about themselves. So it lends to that, you talk about yourself, what's going on with you. So yeah, some of those skills perhaps have been transferable across to teaching as well. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's true.
No, it's funny because I get this a lot all the time as well. Whenever you're teaching like a one-to-one class and the student already has like even B1 and above level, they can already speak about their working situation, their family situation, about how they feel. You might correct them with the ED and ING, for example, between bored and boring. But a lot of the time it's nice to connect with a student to just hear what's going on in their life. Sometimes you can share a couple of things about yourself at the same time. And yeah, I've had this a few times when people are like, Lewis, it feels like this is a therapy session.
Yeah.
Like, look how well you're speaking English.
Yeah, exactly. When you feel relaxed, you can. I've had some students before say they're out with friends, maybe they've had a beer, they can talk English so much better because they're relaxed. So I feel like if you're in a situation where you feel relaxed, you can be yourself, you're comfortable, then you're going to be able to practice your English so much better. And that's what it's all about, improving those skills, really. So that's what I try to encourage, at least.
Oh, 100%. And just mentioning your teaching, obviously you teach one-to-one classes, all of this, but you also have a community. Could you tell us a little bit about this community that you have?
Yeah, of course. So I've had lots of students express how they don't feel like they have an opportunity to practice their speaking. Because like I always say, the only way your speaking is going to get better is if you practice. But people are worried about making mistakes, they feel nervous, and maybe they don't have anyone to practice with. So all we've done in the community, we've created this really warm, cozy environment of other students.
Favorite word again, cozy.
Cozy, yeah. And myself, I've got another teacher, Emma, who does some work with it as well. And we do 2 speaking group sessions a week, Mondays and Tuesdays, where we just get together, You get in small little groups, you practice talking about all different topics, learn new vocabulary, learn new phrases, and just practice speaking. There's no pressure, there's no exams, nothing like that. Just an opportunity to talk and practice those speaking skills, because that's how you're going to get better.
Perfect. Well, if anyone wants to find out more, then feel free to message Alex. I'm sure he'll send you more information. Lovely. Now, anyway, let's go over some random topics.
Okay.
My favorite topic, if people are watching this and they've watched all of my conversations, they'll be sick of hearing about it. They'll be fed up of it. But I love food. So, Alex, if you had to choose maybe one of your favorite meals, what would it be? And you don't have to be exactly decisive. You can tell me one or two. And yeah, I'm excited to hear what your favorite meal is.
Is this like a death row meal? Like last meal, what would I have?
Go on then. Let's do it like that. So last meal, starter, main, and dessert.
Okay.
Big decisions being made here.
Big decision.
Take your time if you need to.
Yeah. Okay. I think, do you know what? My mind went straight to breakfast, if I'm honest. So maybe I can add breakfast in as well. There's something about like a really nice cup of coffee and like a really flaky, beautiful croissant. Oh, for me, that's perfect way to start the day. Anyway, so that'll be breakfast. And then I'll go straight to dinner now because breakfast.
I mean, you can tell me lunch as well if you want. And whilst you're thinking, just a nice little bit of information for people.
Yeah.
In the south of England, people have breakfast, they have lunch, and they have dinner, like everywhere in the rest of the English-speaking world. However, in the north of England, at least for my family, friends around Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield, Liverpool, Newcastle, around these areas, people have breakfast, then they have dinner, and then they have tea. So it's at exactly the same times as in the south, but we say that the second meal of the day is called dinner, and the last meal of the day is called tea. So if I say, oh, what have you made for tea? It's like, what have you made for dinner? It's like, oh, I'm starving. When's tea ready? Which is a little bit interesting, and it's fun, and this is a very, very Northern English thing. But when I'm teaching, I often don't do this because I'm very neutral now when I'm speaking. But in the north of England, it is breakfast, dinner, and tea, not breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I love learning and talking about the differences between the south and the north, and like the cultural differences in regards to like what we call things is very different as well. And yeah, that's a great example of that. That's interesting.
I thought I'd put in and get that in there. So anyway, now you've had the time to think about it. So what would then be your...
this might be a little bit of a boring answer, but for maybe a starter, I really love a good salad. I know that is a bit of a boring answer, but like a perfect salad, maybe with a burrata on top or something like that, with some nice crispy like breadsticks or something, that would be lovely. And then for the main, I'm going to say a pizza, just like a nice classic margherita pizza, Italian, thick, like crust around the outside, thin, beautiful. And then maybe like a tiramisu or something for dessert.
Very Italian, right?
Yeah. Although I am as British as they come. I've not got
quintessentially British, as we say.
Quintessentially British. I wish I had some other like ethnicity or something, but I'm just boring white British. But my taste in food, very like mainland European, like French food, Italian food, Spanish food as well. Love it.
Okay, perfect. Well, just being quintessentially British isn't so boring. Like, I wish I was a mixture of different ethnicities as well, but unfortunately I'm not either. And I guess we just have to own it and be proud of it.
It's true. Yeah, you strike me as being a bit Welsh, though. I can imagine you being Welsh.
Yeah. I think, I don't really know. I'd love to do one of these like family tree things to test your ancestry and your DNA and know exactly where I come from, because I've got dark hair. In summer, I get a little bit of a tan, so I could be a little bit French. Maybe I'm a little bit Italian or Spanish. I doubt it, but it's possible.
Yeah.
All I know is that my family are from Yorkshire and Stoke.
Okay.
So but like that's as far as it can be traced. So maybe for my birthday, I'm going to get one of these DNA ancestry tests.
I'll get it for you. I think that's a good idea.
Thank you. And then for your birthday, I'll get you one, and then we'll find out that actually we are not British at all. We are from Mozambique.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Anything could happen. Anyway, let's go over a couple of other topics before we finish.
Yeah.
Series and films. First,
Mhm.
what kind of series and films do you enjoy most?
I just like a comfort show. You know, a TV show that's easy watching. It's like makes you feel good, happy, so maybe Friends, or one that's very popular in the UK, Gavin and Stacey. I don't know if you're a fan of that, Lewis, but
I don't mind it. It's all right. Yeah, I know for Christmas there was a special. There usually is.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, so just kind of easy watching. I don't like anything too intense. I know lots of my friends enjoy crime thrillers, those type of things. But yeah, my recommendations would be Friends or The Office or those type of shows. I think are great for learning English as well.
No, I agree absolutely. I think The Office is like probably my favorite show ever. Maybe.
Who's your favorite character?
I mean, so first, are we talking about British or US?
US.
I thought so, which sounds bad because we're both from England, so we should be proud of our own original Office created by Ricky Gervais and Steve Merchant, I think his name is. And absolutely, everybody, check it out, watch it. It's the original. It's absolutely class. It's awesome. But then when Americans took inspiration from the original Office, it's true that I think they made it better and much, much longer. So there were 9 seasons rather than just 2 or 3 seasons. And the favorite character, I mean, it's got to be Michael, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Like, when he leaves, it's not quite the same. It's still enjoyable, but it's not quite the same. So I'd go Michael Scott for president.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I agree. I think he's the best. And it did change when he left, so it's a shame. But yeah, he was great.
And let us know in the comments if you've watched The Office. Who is your favorite character? Maybe it's Dwight. Maybe it's... Who else is there?
Angela.
Angela.
Actually, no, I'll be honest, Lewis.
Kim.
Jan is my favorite character.
Oh, yeah?
Jan, she is so funny. My favorite episode is when they have a dinner party and they all get that. It's so funny. I might have to watch that again later. That is a great
think I need to start like binge watching The Office again. I only watched it like from start to finish once again last year, but I think it's about time I rewatch it. And I'm just remembering another character, Creed.
Yeah.
Absolute insane lunatic. Let me repeat that. He's a lunatic, and a lunatic is a crazy person. He's a madman. And he's just an old man, seems very unassuming, but then sometimes he'll come out with some little great one-liners. So to come out with is to say kind of without expecting them to say something. So Creed is great as well, and Kevin, of course, is a legend too.
Yeah, the best.
Now, one final topic. We mentioned travel already, but are there any destinations that you would love to visit in the near future, and why?
Okay. I always love to have a holiday planned. At the moment, I don't have any holidays planned, unfortunately, but I would like to visit Sri Lanka. It's one of my dream locations. I went when I was 16, when I was younger, just for like a quick holiday. But I would love to go maybe for a month and travel around and learn more about their culture and see the different sites there. That would be really nice. And skiing. I want to go skiing as well. Yeah, sorry.
Have you been skiing before?
Yeah, I love skiing, but I've not been since before COVID, which is a real travesty. It's a shame. It's sad. I've not been since before COVID, so I need to get back to that.
I would love to go as well. I remember I went with my school when we were all like 16, and we went just on the border between Italy and France. And it's basically where like Mont Blanc is, and I think the Italian region is called the Valley of Aosta. And in the French side, it's like begins with a CHAMP, like champignon, which is mushroom in French, but it's something similar to that.
Yeah.
I remember going and I had a great time. I had a blast. I had a ball. I'd love to go skiing again, but it's true that it can be a little bit of an expensive hobby. So that's the reason why I've been like steering away from it recently, just because it costs quite a lot.
Yeah. Very true.
Hey, what are you going to do?
What can you do?
And again, let us know, viewers, if you're planning on going on any nice holidays this year. Write it in the comments, and maybe we can give you some recommendations on these destinations where you're thinking of going. And on that bombshell, we can call it a day for today and wrap it up. But I hope you enjoyed this conversation in British English, talking about a little bit of everything. And yeah, Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you for your time and for the chit chat.
No, thank you so much, Lewis, for having me. It's been a real pleasure. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. So thank you, everybody, and see you next time. Bye bye.